The massive chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Taesung stepped forward. His pale skin glowed softly under the harsh lights, the bioluminescent bacteria that lived in harmony with his people, causing his hands to shimmer like moonlight on water. Around him, representatives from 40 different species watched with barely concealed disgust. Some covered their breathing apparatus. Others shifted away in their seats. Taesung had expected this. The Velari had been wandering space for 70 years, and everywhere they went, the reaction was the same. Fear, disgust, rejection. "Honorable council members," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of 40,000 lives depending on his words. "My people have traveled far. We seek only a home, a place to raise our children, to live in peace." Behind him, his sister Jiwoo stood with 3 other Velari representatives. She clutched a datapad containing medical records, population statistics, and every piece of information the council had demanded. Her violet eyes scanned the room, looking for any sign of sympathy. She found none. A Draknir councillor rose from his seat. His species stood over 7 feet tall, with red-scaled skin and eyes like burning coals. "The council has reviewed your petition," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Your people carry contamination. Your biological makeup is incompatible with civilized space." "The bacteria are harmless," Jiwoo interrupted, unable to stay silent. "We've submitted 3 independent medical studies. They pose no threat to any known species. They're simply part of our biology, like hair or fingernails are to others." "They make you glow," an alien representative said, their translator device making their words sound flat and emotionless. "It disturbs our citizens. It reminds them of decay, of death. Your presence on any council world would cause panic." Taesung felt his hands trembling. He forced them still. "We're not asking to live on your worlds. We're asking for coordinates to an uninhabited planet, somewhere we can build our own society. We'll trade with you, share our technology, but we need a home." The council members looked at each other. A few whispered among themselves. Finally, the Draknir councillor spoke again. "The council's decision is final. Petition denied. However, we're not without mercy. We'll provide you with coordinates to several uninhabited zones in the Outer Rim. You may attempt settlement there." Jiwoo's face went pale, and not from her natural coloring. "The Outer Rim? That's pirate territory. There's no law, no protection. The planets there are either too hostile for life or claimed by criminal syndicates." "Then I suggest you defend yourselves well," the Draknir said. "This session is concluded." The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered and died. One by one, the council members rose and left through various exits, none looking back at the 5 Velari standing in the center of the Great Hall. Within minutes, Taesung and his delegation stood alone in the massive empty space. Jiwoo's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the polished floor, her head in her hands. "What do we tell them?" she whispered. "What do we tell the families waiting on the ships?" Taesung knelt beside his sister, placing a hand on her shoulder. His glow pulsed slightly with his emotion, a soft blue shimmer that betrayed his fear. "We tell them we keep looking. We tell them we don't give up. We've been looking for 70 years, Jiwoo said, and now tears ran down her face, leaving glowing trails on her cheeks. "I have children dying on those ships, Taesung. Dying from diseases we could cure if we had proper facilities. Dying from malnutrition because our hydroponic systems are failing. How much longer can we keep looking?" He had no answer for her. 3 hours later, they were back aboard the flagship of their small fleet. 12 colony ships, each one ancient and failing, held the last of the Velari people. Taesung stood on the bridge, staring at the view screen showing the council hub station growing smaller behind them. Young Hyunwoo sat at the navigation console, his fingers moving across the controls with practiced ease despite being only 23 years old. He was part of the generation born in space, who had never felt soil under their feet or breathed air that hadn't been recycled 1,000 times. "Sir," Hyunwoo said quietly. "I'm receiving a signal." Taesung turned. "From the council?" "No, sir. It's coming from an unaligned system. Very far away, in a spiral arm the council considers unimportant." He paused, listening through his earpiece. "It's a repeating broadcast. An open message." "Play it," Taesung said. Static filled the bridge for a moment, then a voice came through. It spoke in Galactic Common, but with an accent Taesung had never heard before. "This is Earth Diplomatic Service broadcasting to all vessels. If you seek refuge, if you have nowhere else to go, you're welcome here. We don't care what you look like, where you're from, or what others say about you. Earth's doors are open. Coordinates follow, the message repeated. Hyunwoo looked up at Taesung with wide eyes. Sir, Earth isn't in the Council database. I'm searching independent records now. He worked for a few minutes, then shook his head in disbelief. They're listed as a recently spacefaring species. They achieved faster-than-light travel only 20 years ago. The Council attempted contact but deemed them too primitive and too far away to bother with. Earth refused to pay the membership fees or follow Council trade restrictions, so they were left alone. Jiwoo had entered the bridge during the broadcast. It could be a trap, she said softly. Pirates sometimes pose as peaceful worlds to lure in refugee ships. It could be, Taesung agreed. He looked at the coordinates displayed on Hyunwoo's screen. But what choice do we have? The outer rim will kill us in months. At least this gives us a chance. He walked to the captain's chair and sat down heavily. For 70 years, his people had been rejected by every world they encountered. 70 years of wandering, of hoping, of watching their numbers slowly decrease as the old died and fewer children were born in the harsh environment of deep space. The Velari had once been a civilization of billions, with cities that touched the clouds and art that could make stones weep. Now they were 40,000 refugees in failing ships carrying nothing but memories and a desperate hope for tomorrow. Set course for Earth, he said finally. Send a message to all ships. Tell them we're going to try one more time. Hyunwoo's fingers flew across the controls. Course laid in. It'll take us 6 weeks at maximum speed, sir. Then let's not waste time, Taesung said. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. This is Taesung. I know you're all tired. I know today brought more disappointment, but we've received an invitation from a world called Earth. I won't lie to you and say I know what we'll find there, but I promise you this, we'll face it together as we always have. All ships prepare for jump to hyperspace. On the view screen, the stars stretched into lines as the 12 ships accelerated. Behind them, the Galactic Council hub disappeared into the darkness. Ahead lay the unknown, and a species called humanity that no one had ever heard of. Jiwoo stood beside her brother's chair, watching the streaking stars. Do you think they'll be different? She asked quietly. Taesung didn't answer. He couldn't bring himself to hope anymore. Hope hurt too much when it was taken away. But somewhere in the darkness ahead, a small blue planet waited. And on that planet, people who had never seen a Velari were preparing to welcome them home. 6 weeks of travel had brought the Velari fleet to the edge of an unremarkable solar system. Hyunwoo studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. Sir, I'm detecting 17 military vessels in orbit around the third planet. They're moving to intercept us. Taesung felt his heart sink. Another rejection? Perhaps worse than rejection this time. The ships on his sensors were clearly armed. All vessels, battle stations. Prepare to retreat on my command. But something strange happened. The human ships didn't open fire. Instead, they formed an escort pattern around the Velari fleet. A communication channel opened, and a face appeared on the view screen. The creature had no glow, no scales, no extra limbs, just smooth tan skin, dark hair, and eyes that seemed curious rather than hostile. Velari vessels, this is Dong Hyun of the Earth Diplomatic Service. Welcome to our solar system. We've been tracking your approach and wanted to guide you in safely. There's some debris in the outer system that could damage your ships. The human smiled, showing white teeth. We're glad you came. Please follow our escort to Earth orbit, and we can begin talks about your settlement. Jiwoo and Taesung exchanged glances. That's it? Jiwoo whispered. No questions about our biology? No demands for quarantine? Taesung opened the channel. This is Taesung, Fleet Commander. You're aware of what we are. The Galactic Council has records. We've read them, Dong Hyun interrupted. We've also read the medical studies your people submitted. The Council's rejection was based on prejudice, not science. We're not interested in what they think. His expression grew more serious. Your ships look like they've had a hard journey. We have repair facilities ready and medical teams standing by. Let's get your people taken care of first. Politics can wait. The escort brought them to orbit around a blue and green planet. Taesung had seen thousands of worlds through view screens, but something about this one made his breath catch. White clouds swirled in patterns across the surface. Vast oceans reflected the light of the system's yellow star. It looked alive in a way that no planet had looked to him in decades. We've prepared landing coordinates in the city of Seoul, Dong Hyun said. We thought we'd start with one ship. Let your people see what we're offering. and then bring down the rest of your fleet as quickly as you're comfortable. Taesung selected his ship and 30 representatives. As they descended through the atmosphere, Hyunwoo couldn't stop staring out the windows. There are so many cities, he breathed. The lights go on forever. They landed at a massive spaceport as the sun was setting. When the landing ramp lowered, Taesung stepped out first, ready for anything. What he saw made him freeze in place. Hundreds of humans lined the landing area. They held signs with words written in Galactic Common. Welcome home. You're safe now. Earth welcomes you. Small human children waved enthusiastically, their parents holding them up to see better. News cameras recorded everything, but the mood wasn't hostile or fearful. It was celebratory. A woman with kind eyes and black hair approached. She bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. I'm Soo Jin, coordinator of the Refugee Integration Program. On behalf of humanity, welcome to Earth. We know you've traveled far and suffered much rejection. That ends today. Jiwoo descended the ramp behind her brother, medical equipment in hand, ready to treat any injuries from the landing. Instead, she found herself surrounded by human medical personnel offering assistance. A young human woman, maybe 25 years old, approached her with a tablet. Dr. Jiwoo, the woman asked in careful Galactic Common. I'm Dr. Park, Emergency Medicine. We've prepared a temporary medical facility based on the specifications you transmitted. If any of your people need immediate care, we're ready. You built a facility for us? Jiwoo asked, stunned. Before we even arrived? Dr. Park smiled. Of course. You told us you had sick children. We're doctors. What else would we do? Taesung watched as his people slowly descended from the ship. Each one expected hostility, rejection, disgust. Instead, they found humans offering blankets against the evening chill, food, water, and most incredibly, smiles. A small human boy, perhaps 6 years old, walked up to a Valari child who was the same age. The Valari girl's skin glowed bright with fear. The human boy stared at her with wide eyes. Then he said something in his own language and held out a drawing he'd made. It showed 2 stick figures holding hands under a sun. One glowed yellow in the crayon drawing. One didn't. Both were smiling. The Valari girl took the drawing with shaking hands. She looked at her mother, who had tears streaming down her glowing face. The girl hugged the picture to her chest. Donghyun led Taesung and a few others into a building near the landing pad. Inside, a large room had been prepared with star charts, planetary surveys, and comfortable seating. A tall human man in military uniform stood near the back, his arms crossed and his expression neutral. Donghyun noticed Taesung's glance. That's Youngho, our military liaison. He's here to observe. Some of our people have concerns, as you might imagine. We've never hosted an alien species before, let alone 40,000 refugees from one. Youngho stepped forward. I'll be direct, he said. How do we know this isn't a trick? How do we know you're really refugees and not scouts for an invasion? Taesung appreciated the honesty. Look at our ships, he said simply. Do those look like invasion vessels? We barely made it here. Half our systems are failing. We have more children than soldiers, more sick than healthy. We're not a threat. We're survivors. Your technology is more advanced than ours, Youngho pressed. Your energy shields alone are beyond our current capabilities. Then let us share them, Taesung said. He pulled out a data chip from his pocket. This contains the complete specifications for our shield generators. It's yours. No strings attached. Consider it payment for your kindness, though I could never truly repay what you're offering us. The room went silent. Youngho stared at the data chip. You're just giving us this? Our people have a saying, Jiwoo said softly. When someone offers you water in the desert, you don't ask what it costs. You drink, you survive, and then you find a way to give water to the next person dying of thirst. She looked around the room. You're giving us water. This is how we say thank you. Soo-jin pulled up holographic maps of Earth. We have 7 continents and several are suitable for settlement. We thought you might like to choose where you want to build your new home. We have temperate zones, tropical zones, Arctic if you prefer cold. What does your species need to thrive? For the next 3 hours, they discussed possibilities. The humans asked questions not to interrogate, but to understand. What did Valari eat? What kind of climate did they prefer? Did they need special accommodations? What about schools for the children? Medical facilities? How could Earth help make the transition easier? Taesung found himself answering questions he'd never been asked before. Every other species had asked, "Why should we let you stay?" The humans were asking, "How can we help you build a life here?" When they finally finished the preliminary discussions, Dong Hyun walked Tai Sung back outside. The Velari people had been taken to temporary housing. Through windows, Tai Sung could see his people eating hot meals, sleeping in real beds, and most importantly, smiling. He couldn't remember the last time he'd seen so many smiles among his people. "Why are you doing this?" Tai Sung asked quietly. "Your species gains nothing from helping us. You could have ignored our signal. You could have turned us away like everyone else. Why didn't you?" Dong Hyun looked up at the stars beginning to appear in Earth's night sky. "There's an old human saying, we're all just walking each other home. You needed help. We could give it. That's reason enough." He turned to Tai Sung. "Besides, humans have always been wanderers too. We spread across our planet, then into our solar system, and now to the stars. We know what it's like to search for a new home. The difference is, we never faced the cruelty you did. Maybe that's why we can offer kindness now." Tai Sung felt something break inside him. The careful control he'd maintained for years, the strong face he'd shown his people through rejection after rejection, crumbled. He sat down on a bench, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he cried. Not glowing tears of despair, but tears of relief. Dong Hyun sat beside him, not speaking, just present. After a long moment, he said, "Tomorrow we'll start bringing down the rest of your fleet. We'll begin building permanent housing. Your people will need time to adjust and will need time to learn from each other. But tonight, let them rest. Let them feel safe. Let them start to heal." Above them, the 12 colony ships orbited in the night sky, visible as moving points of light. On each one, word was spreading. Earth was different. Earth was kind. Earth was home. 2 years had passed since the Velari fleet landed on Earth. Tai Sung stood on a hillside overlooking the settlement his people had built in the mountains of New Zealand's South Island. The view still took his breath away every morning. Buildings rose in organic curves that mimicked the Velari architectural style, but they were built using earth materials and human engineering techniques. At night, the city glowed softly from within, powered by the hybrid energy systems both species had developed together. "Governor, you're going to be late for the council meeting," a voice called from behind him. Tai Sung turned to see Hyun Woo jogging up the path, slightly out of breath. The young pilot had gained weight since arriving on Earth, healthy weight from eating real food and breathing clean air. All the Velari had. The transformation in his people still amazed Tai Sung. "I'm coming," Tai Sung said. "I was just thinking about how far we've come." "Well, come think about it while walking," Hyun Woo said with a grin. "The humans get nervous when you're late. They think something's wrong." They walked together down to the council building. Inside, representatives from both species worked, side by side on everything from water management to education policy. It was chaotic and wonderful, and nothing like the cold bureaucracy of the Galactic Council. Min Seo was already there, spreading holographic blueprints across the table. She was one of the human architects who had volunteered to work in New Velar, the name they'd given to the settlement. Her black hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she had the excited energy of someone about to share good news. "Tai Sung, look at this," she said, not bothering with formal titles. That was another thing he'd learned about humans. They were informal to a degree that would have been considered rude in Galactic Council space. Here, it just felt friendly. "We've figured out how to integrate Velari organic building materials with human structural support systems. The resulting buildings use 40% less energy than standard human construction, and 50% less than Velari traditional methods." She pulled up images of a proposed expansion to the city. The buildings looked like they had grown from the Earth itself, all flowing lines and natural curves, but with the strength and efficiency of human engineering. Solar panels that had been designed to work with Velari bioluminescence covered the roofs, creating a closed energy loop. "It's beautiful," Tai Sung said honestly. "When can we start construction?" "Next month if the council approves the budget," Min Seo said. She hesitated, then added, "I've been approached by other human cities. They want to build using our hybrid designs. They say it's more sustainable, more beautiful. Your people's architecture is becoming popular across Earth." Tai Sung felt a swell of pride. His people weren't just refugees anymore. They were contributors, partners, Citizens of Earth, the meeting continued with reports from various departments. Jiwoo spoke about the medical exchange program. Velari doctors were teaching human physicians about their advanced cellular regeneration techniques, while human doctors shared their knowledge of treating diseases the Velari had never encountered. Together, they'd made breakthroughs that neither species could have achieved alone. Jae-hyun gave an update on the schools. The young Velari had become a teacher, and he spoke passionately about the integrated education system. Human children and Velari children learn together now, he said. The younger ones don't even see the differences anymore. To them, having glowing skin is just like having different colored hair. It's normal. It's just part of who we are. He showed a video of a classroom. Human and Velari children sat together, working on a project about Earth's solar system. A Velari girl explained something to her human classmate, their heads bent together over a tablet. They could have been any two children anywhere working on homework together. The future, Taesung said softly, watching the video. That's what the future looks like. After the meeting ended, Taesung walked to the communications center. As governor of New Velar and Earth's director of refugee affairs, he received reports from across the planet and beyond. Today, there was a message waiting from Sung-min. Sung-min was one of Earth's traders who worked in the gray areas between council space and independent systems. Humans, being relatively new to galactic politics, had discovered they could move through spaces the council ignored. They traded, with outcasts, with independent colonies, with anyone who had goods to offer and wasn't afraid of council sanctions. The message made Taesung sit up straight. 3 more refugee species had made contact through back channels. They'd heard about Earth, about how the Velari had been welcomed. They wanted to know if the stories were true, if Earth would really accept them. Taesung immediately called for a meeting with Prime Minister Sun-hee. An hour later, he sat in her office in what had once been Seoul, but was now the capital of United Earth. The office was modest, with windows overlooking the city. Sun-hee preferred working among her people rather than in some isolated government complex. 3 more species? She said, reading the report. That would bring our refugee population to almost 200,000 individuals. Yes, ma'am, Taesung said. I understand if it's too much. My people alone have been a significant burden. Burden? Sun-hee interrupted. She laughed, but not unkindly. Taesung, in 2 years your people have revolutionized our architecture, improved our medical technology, and taught us more about sustainable energy than we'd learned in 50 years. The other human nations are jealous that New Zealand got to host you. She grew more serious. But I need to be honest. The Galactic Council has been sending warnings. They're not happy with us. She pulled up a communication from the Council. It was formal, cold, and threatening. Earth was ordered to cease accepting refugees immediately. Continued defiance would result in economic sanctions and complete isolation from council space. They're bullies, Sun-hee said flatly. They built their civilization on fear and exclusion, and they're angry that we're not playing by their rules. What will you do? Taesung asked. Sun-hee smiled. I'm going to send them a very polite message explaining that Earth makes its own decisions about who we welcome into our home. Then I'm going to authorize Sung-min to extend invitations to those 3 refugee species. Taesung felt his skin pulse with emotion glowing brighter. The council won't accept that. They might take action against Earth. Let them try, Sun-hee said. We're not helpless. Your people's shield technology has been integrated into our defense systems. We've tripled our fleet using hybrid designs. And more importantly, we're right and they're wrong. Sometimes that has to be enough. The message was sent the next day. Earth's response to the Galactic Council was brief and diplomatic, but absolutely firm. Earth would not turn away refugees. Earth would not abandon people in need. And Earth would not be intimidated. The Council's response came within hours. Economic sanctions were imposed immediately. No Council ships were permitted to trade with Earth. Any species found doing business with humanity would face penalties. The message was clear: fall in line or be isolated. Sung-min called an emergency meeting of Earth's trade network, the independent traders, the outcast colonies, the species who operated in the shadows of council space. Here's the situation, he told them via secure channels. Earth is being sanctioned. Trading with us puts you at risk. We understand if you need to cut ties. The responses surprised even Taesung. One after another, the independent traders confirmed they would continue working with Earth. Some because they needed Earth's goods, others because they were tired of the Council's tyranny, and a few simply because they liked humanity's attitude. The Council thinks they control all trade, one alien trader said over the channel, but they only control official trade. The rest of us have been moving goods around their rules for centuries. Let them impose their sanctions. We'll find ways around them. 3 months later, the first of the new refugee species arrived. The Shilnari were crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns. They'd been rejected by the Council because their appearance was considered disturbing. To Taesung, they were beautiful, each one a living prism that split light into rainbows. A month after that, the Morvani arrived. An aquatic species that needed special environments to survive. They'd been rejected because accommodating them was considered too expensive. Humanity built underwater habitats off the coast of Australia in 6 weeks. Then came the Pixith, small beings barely 3 feet tall who the Council had dismissed as too primitive. They turned out to be brilliant engineers who looked at problems in ways neither humans nor Velari had considered. Earth was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history. Not a single-species world, but a true multi-species civilization. 4 alien races now called Earth home, and they weren't living in isolated communities. They were integrated, working together, learning from each other. The Galactic Council watched with growing alarm. Their sanctions weren't working, Earth was thriving, and worse, their example was spreading. Other species were starting to question why the Council rejected so many refugees. Protests began on Council worlds. Calls for reform echoed through their chambers. Late one night, Taesung stood on his hillside again, looking down at New Velar. The blockade began on a Tuesday morning. Earth time zones meant it was night in New Velar when the first reports came in, but Taesung was awake anyway, working through immigration requests from 2 more refugee species. His communicator buzzed urgently. "Turn on the news," Hyunwoo said without greeting. "They've done it." Taesung pulled up the global news feed. Video showed dozens of Council warships taking positions around Earth's solar system. They weren't attacking, just blocking every major transit route in and out. The message was clear: nothing in, nothing out. Earth was alone. Within hours, Prime Minister Sun Hee called an emergency assembly. Representatives from all 5 species gathered in the United Earth Chamber. The building itself was a symbol of what they'd built together. Human architecture formed the foundation, but Velari organic materials made up the walls. Shilnari crystals provided natural lighting, Morvani water features regulated temperature, and Pixith engineering made the whole structure more efficient than anything built by a single species. Sun Hee stood at the podium, her expression calm despite the crisis. "The Galactic Council has imposed a complete blockade of our system. They expect us to surrender within months. They believe we'll panic, that we'll beg to be readmitted to galactic trade." She paused, looking around the room at the representatives from 5 different species. "They don't know us very well, do they?" Nervous laughter rippled through the chamber. Taesung stood to speak. "The Council thinks in terms of individual species. They can't imagine what we've become. We're not 5 separate populations living on the same planet. We're one civilization now." Bora, a human admiral, brought up holographic displays showing Earth's resources and production capabilities. "We've been preparing for this. Every species here brought knowledge and technology. The Velari taught us advanced energy systems. The Shilnari showed us new manufacturing techniques. The Morvani revolutionized our ocean farming. The Pixith redesigned our computing systems." She smiled grimly. "We're completely self-sufficient. The blockade will hurt them more than it hurts us." "But other refugee species won't be able to reach us," Jiwoo pointed out. She'd been coordinating medical supplies for potential new arrivals. "Ships trying to run the blockade will be turned away or destroyed. Then we'll go get them," Sun Hee said. She pulled up a proposal that made several representatives gasp. "I'm proposing we formalize what we've become. The Refuge Alliance, a coalition of Earth and all refugee species. We'll have our own government, our own military, our own trade networks. We'll establish colonies in nearby systems, create safe routes for refugees, and show the galaxy there's an alternative to the Council's way. The vote was unanimous. Within a week, the Refuge Alliance was officially established. Its charter was simple. Any species was welcome, regardless of biology or history. Members contributed what they could and received what they needed. Decisions were made collectively, with each species having equal representation. Kyung-soo, a human scientist who had been working with researchers from all 5 species, presented their latest breakthrough. "We've combined technologies in ways no single species would have thought of," he explained, pulling up schematics that made even experienced engineers lean forward with interest. Velari energy shields, Shilnari crystal focusing arrays, Morveni hydropower cores, Pixith quantum processors, and human weapon systems. He showed them the RSS Unity, the first warship built entirely using hybrid technology. It was smaller than Council dreadnoughts, but faster, better shielded, and more heavily armed. "We've built 20 of these in the last 6 months, Kyung-soo said, and we're accelerating production." Bora took over the presentation. Each ship requires a mixed crew. No single species can operate all the systems. Humans handle weapons and navigation. Velari manage shields and power distribution. Shilnari run sensors and communications. Morveni operate environmental systems. Pixith maintain computers and run combat calculations. She looked around the room. "It forces us to work together. But more importantly, it means our ships can do things no Council vessel can match." A Shilnari representative, speaking through their translator device, asked the obvious question. "Are we preparing for war?" Sun-hee answered carefully. "We're preparing to defend ourselves. The Council has shown they're willing to use force to maintain their control. We need to be ready." 2 years passed under the blockade. The Council expected Earth to crumble. Instead, the Refuge Alliance flourished. They established colonies on 4 nearby systems, each one a mixed community where all 5 species lived and worked together. They developed new technologies at a pace that shocked even themselves. They built a fleet of hybrid vessels that patrolled their space, and somehow, refugees kept arriving. Ships that managed to slip through gaps in the blockade, pilots who knew, secret routes, desperate people who risked everything for a chance at the life Earth offered. Each time the Alliance welcomed them, found places for them, integrated them into their growing civilization. The Council watched with growing frustration. Their blockade was supposed to be a lesson to the galaxy. Instead, it was becoming an embarrassment. And worse, it was inspiring others. Protests grew on Council worlds. More species questioned the Council's authority. Some even began openly defying Council orders. Then came the ultimatum. The Draknir Empire, the Council's military powerhouse, announced they would enforce the blockade with force. Any ship attempting to reach Earth would be destroyed. Any Alliance vessel leaving their designated space would be fired upon. The deadline was 30 days. Tae-sung met with his sister in the medical facility she now directed. It served all 5 species and had become a model for integrated healthcare. "It's really happening," he said quietly. "They're going to attack." Jiwoo was checking equipment, preparing for casualties. She'd lived through war before when the Velari homeworld was dying. She knew what was coming. "We could surrender. Give them what they want. Maybe they'd let our people stay." "You don't believe that?" "No," she admitted. "They'd separate us, send the refugees back to wandering, punish Earth for defying them." She looked at her brother. "So we fight?" "We defend ourselves," Tae-sung corrected. "There's a difference." The 30 days passed quickly. The Alliance spent them preparing, not just militarily but socially. Community centers opened to help people process their fears. Schools held special assemblies explaining what was happening in age-appropriate ways. The 5 species drew closer together, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it as one. On the final day, Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the RSS Unity, alongside Admiral Bo-Ra. Around them, the crew worked at their stations. A human navigated. A Velari monitored shields. A Shilnari watched sensors. A Morvani managed environmental controls. A Pixith coordinated all their efforts through the ship's computer systems. 20 ships against 100 Draknir warships, Bora said, looking at the tactical display. The odds aren't good. The odds never were, Taesung replied. My people were supposed to die in space. Earth was supposed to stay isolated and primitive. The refugees were supposed to stay scattered and weak. He smiled, his skin glowing softly. We've been beating the odds since the day we met humanity. The Draknir fleet entered the system right on schedule. 100 warships, the pride of the Council's military. They came in formation, confident and overwhelming. Their commander, Vakthral, broadcast a message across all frequencies. Earth and its so-called Refuge Alliance have violated Council law. You have harbored refugees, defied sanctions, and built unauthorized military vessels. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated with mercy. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Sun-Hee responded from Earth's surface. Her voice was calm, but it carried across the system with absolute clarity. This is Prime Minister Sun-Hee of the Refuge Alliance. We have violated no laws because we don't recognize the Council's authority over us. We've welcomed people who needed help. We've built a civilization based on mutual respect and cooperation. And we've defended ourselves against your illegal blockade. She paused, and when she spoke again, her words would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. You come with weapons and threats because that's all you know. You can't imagine a civilization built on anything other than fear and dominance. But we're showing the galaxy something different. We're proving that outcasts and refugees can build something better than you ever dreamed. Dong Hyun, now Earth's ambassador to the Alliance, added his voice. You have a choice, Commander Vakthral. Turn your ships around and go home, or come forward and learn why humanity survived every disaster our world ever threw at us. Learn why the Velari persevered through 70 years of rejection. Learn what happens when the outcasts stop running and stand together. The Draknir fleet advanced. 20 Alliance ships moved to meet them, and high above Earth, the blue planet that had changed everything, the battle for a new kind of future began. The battle lasted 4 hours. That was all it took to change the galaxy forever. Admiral Bora watched her tactical display as the Draknir fleet spread out, trying to surround the 20 Alliance ships. Standard Council tactics designed to overwhelm through numbers and firepower. She smiled grimly. All ships pattern Delta. Let's show them what coordination really looks like. The Alliance vessels moved in perfect harmony. Each ship covered another's weak points. When one ship's shields weakened, 2 others shifted position to protect it. The Shilnari sensors detected Draknir targeting solutions before weapons could lock. The Pixith computers calculated intercept courses faster than any Council AI. The Morvini power cores provided energy that seemed limitless. The Velari shields absorbed damage that should have destroyed them, and human weapons, guided by all of this, fired with devastating accuracy. Taesung stood beside Bora, coordinating the Velari shield operations across the fleet. He watched as Draknir plasma bolts that could have vaporized a planet's surface splashed harmlessly against their barriers. Their weapons are powerful, he said calmly, but they're designed to fight ships that work alone. They don't know how to fight a fleet that thinks as one. The first Draknir ship lost power within 20 minutes. The Alliance had targeted its engines, not its weapons, not its life support. The ship drifted, helpless but intact, crew alive but defeated. The second followed 10 minutes later. Then a third. A fourth on the Draknir flagship. Commander Vakthral stared at his displays in disbelief. How are they doing this? Their ships are smaller, their fleet is outnumbered 5 to 1. His tactical officer had no answer. The truth was something the Council had never considered. The Alliance ships weren't just technologically superior. They were fighting for something. Every human on those vessels knew they were protecting a home that had accepted them. Every Velari remembered 70 years of rejection and refused to let it happen again. Every Shilnari, Morvani, and Pixith fought for a civilization that had given them dignity. The Draknir fought because they were ordered to. It wasn't the same. After 2 hours, Vakthral had lost 30 ships. Not destroyed, but disabled. Their crews safe in unpowered vessels that the Alliance carefully avoided. His remaining ships were scattered, their formations broken, and the Alliance fleet remained untouched. Every ship still fought at full capacity. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 of our ships. Their captains don't want to continue. Vokthral felt something he'd never experienced before. Shame. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Draknir Empire, was being defeated by refugees and primitives. But even worse than the defeat was how they were being defeated. The Alliance wasn't trying to kill them. Every targeting solution aimed for engines, weapons, non-critical systems. They were being dismantled with surgical precision. He opened a channel to the Alliance flagship. This is Commander Vokthral. I'm calling a ceasefire. We surrender. Bora looked at Tae-sung, who nodded. She opened the channel. Commander, we accept your surrender. Stand down your remaining ships. We'll send medical and engineering teams to assist your damaged vessels. You're offering us help? Vokthral couldn't hide his surprise. We're not monsters, Bora replied simply. We defend ourselves, but we don't kill unnecessarily. Your crews will be treated well and you'll be returned to Council space when it's safe to do so. An hour later, Vokthral found himself aboard the RSS Unity. He'd expected to be thrown in a cell. Instead, he was brought to a medical bay where Jiwoo supervised both Alliance and Draknir medical personnel, working side by side to treat injured soldiers from both sides. A young Velari doctor, her skin glowing softly as she worked, was carefully bandaging a Draknir warrior's arm. The warrior watched her with confused eyes. Your people were rejected by the Council. Why are you helping me? The doctor looked up, surprised by the question. Because you're hurt. That's reason enough. Jiwoo approached Vokthral. Commander, you have a head injury. Let me check it. I'm fine, he growled, but his words lacked conviction. You're not fine. You're concussed and probably in pain. Sit down and let me help you. Her tone left no room for argument. As she worked, Vokthral watched the medical bay. Humans, Velari, Shilnari, Morvani, and Pixith all worked together, treating wounded without regard for species or side. A Pixith engineer was helping a Draknir pilot figure out how to operate a translator device. A human nurse was bringing water to a Draknir soldier who couldn't reach it himself due to his injuries. I don't understand you, Vokthral said quietly. We came to destroy you. We would have killed all of you if we'd won. Why show mercy? Jiwoo paused in her work. Because that's what we are. The Council rejected us because we were different, because we didn't fit their rules, because they were afraid of change. But we didn't let that make us cruel. We built something better, she resumed, checking his injury. You'll have a headache for a few days, but you'll be fine. Try to rest. Tae-sung entered the medical bay and walked to where Vokthral sat. Commander, the Prime Minister wants to speak with you. She's broadcasting to the entire galaxy. She thought you might want to hear this. They moved to a conference room where a large screen showed Sun-hee standing in the United Earth Chamber. Representatives from all 5 species of the Refuge Alliance stood behind her. A visual representation of what they'd built together. People of the galaxy, Sun-hee began. Today the Galactic Council sent a fleet to destroy us. They wanted to punish us for welcoming refugees. They wanted to prove that their way, built on exclusion and fear, was the only way. She paused. They were wrong. The screen split to show footage of the battle. The Alliance fleet moving in perfect coordination. Draknir ships being carefully disabled rather than destroyed. Medical teams rushing to help wounded from both sides. We defeated them, Sun-hee continued. Not because we're more violent, but because we're more united. 5 species working as one. Each contributing their strengths, each covering the other's weaknesses. This is what the Council fears. Not our weapons, not our technology, but our example. She gestured to the representatives behind her. We're building a different kind of civilization here. One where being different isn't a crime. Where needing help isn't a weakness. Where cooperation is valued over domination. Her expression grew more intense, and we're inviting anyone who wants to join us. Any species, any individual, regardless of what the Council says about you. Earth's doors are open. The Refuge Alliance welcomes you. Then she said the words that would echo across the galaxy for centuries. We've sent this message to every system, every planet, every ship. If you're rejected, if you're shunned, if you're told you don't belong, remember Earth. Remember that somewhere in the galaxy there are people who will welcome you, who will value you for what you are, not what you look like or where you're from. The broadcast ended. Vokthral sat in silence for a long moment. Finally he said, the Council will never accept this. They'll send more fleets. They'll fail, Tae-sung interrupted. Because we're not alone anymore. Your fleet surrendered in 4 hours. How long do you think word of that took to spread? Right now, on every council world, people are watching the footage. They're seeing that the mighty Draknir Empire couldn't defeat a handful of refugee ships. They're asking why. He was right. Across council space, the broadcasts were being shared, analyzed, discussed. On Draknir worlds, citizens questioned why their military had attacked refugees. On Ilian worlds, merchants calculated the profits being lost by refusing to trade with Earth. On dozens of other worlds, beings who had been told they were inferior because they were different watched 5 species working together and wondered why the council insisted it was impossible. The council itself fractured within weeks. 3 member species withdrew, citing philosophical differences. 5 more demanded reform. Protests erupted on major council worlds. The Draknir Empire itself began internal investigations into why the attack on Earth had been ordered. Vokthrul stayed on Earth for 3 months. Sunhee had offered to send him home immediately, but he'd asked to remain. He wanted to understand what he'd fought against, what he'd lost to. Hyunwoo served as his guide. The young Velari pilot showed him the integrated schools where children from 6 species now learned together. The hybrid cities where architecture from multiple worlds blended into something new and beautiful. The research centers where scientists from different species made breakthroughs that single-species science had never achieved. We were dying, Hyunwoo told him one day as they walked through New Velar. 70 years in space, rejected everywhere we went. I was born on a colony ship. I thought I would die there too. Then we found Earth. He looked up at the sky where both Earth's sun and the lights of orbital habitats shone. Humans asked us one question. Not what's wrong with you or why should we help you. They asked, what do you need? That was all. Just what do you need? Vokthrul watched children playing in a park. Human, Velari, Shilnari, Morvani, Pixith, and now even a few young Draknir whose families had asked to stay on Earth. They played the same games, laughed at the same jokes, helped each other up when someone fell. They didn't see species. They saw friends.